Good job today, man. It's one at a time, and we'll get the job done. Say on three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
Mr. JetsCentral, how you doing, my friend?
Tyson, what's good, dude?
I'm doing great. Training camp is here. Padded practice today. We got a lot to cover that's actually on the field instead of off the field. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's so much. I feel like a broken record. I keep saying that in all my videos, but I just feel like there's so much positivity right now with, the O-line, with, the hurt players coming back from injury, guys like Morgan Moses, Mike Williams. These kind of seem ahead of schedule. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson is their connections kind of firing on all cylinders. Yeah, man. I mean, so many different things. We have standout players, some of the young guys stepping up. It's a good time.
The one thing we'll go through all position groups, but the one thing I noticed first off was the new level of accountability, especially on offense. False start, come out of the game. Bad drop pass, come out of the game, come out of practice. Like, that's a whole new change from last year, man, where I think the Jets learned some lesson in the coaching staff. Are you you feel the same way about that?
100%, dude. Because in recent years, it's always kind of felt, first off, we've seen Robert Saleh just hand out jobs before.
Yep.
For guys that don't necessarily earn it, but they just get, again, handed or awarded those positions, whether it be, a Zach Wilson at backup QB. Doesn't matter how you look, doesn't matter how you act, doesn't matter how you perform. Here's the job. Dalvin Cook too, kind of same situation over Michael Carter. Just a weird thing. I mean, we can, keep on going, giving more examples, but yeah, you kind of just feel as though the lack of accountability, the lack of leadership, these things have always been in question with the Saleh regime. And, frankly, Joe Douglas regime as well, unfortunately. But it seemed, and I kind of want to take it with a grain of salt because it's only been a week, but there is definitely a different, I guess, tune, in my opinion.
I think there's a sense of urgency, which is great. And I think Aaron Rodgers demands a lot of it too, where like last year when you have a quarterback, you don't have a lot of confidence in or doesn't have confidence in himself, like a Zach Wilson, you can't yell at your receivers. You can't yell at your linemen. Like now you have like your leaders here. He demands perfection. If you don't get it, like, you know what? We got to make a change. No matter who you are, you're coming off the field. Dude, I think it's awesome. Like I was excited to hear that. And then you look at Aaron Rodgers coming with a major injury. We knew he was healthy, but how is he going to be? And early on, he's been lights out, man. And like you have to just love what you see in just in terms of his throwing, running around, his leadership, his demeanor, his everything. It's just like, it's almost like a step up from last year because there's so much more pressure this year.
Yeah, sure. And there was actually like those, there were, I think, multiple reports or multiple beat writers talking about Rodgers getting like pissed, like fuming in practice today, because of either, bad snaps or a bad throw. Or I think at one point somebody stepped on his foot during a handoff and that pissed him off. But personally, man, I kind of like the fire. Like I want my quarterback, to take these training camp practices seriously. And I'm not saying, guys that don't get mad aren't, but it's just, it's good to know. And again, this is, look, we look at last season and it was just a train wreck on so many different fronts. I felt like there was finger pointing. There were people that just didn't take accountability. Saleh, Douglas, Hackett. It was just like, there's so much blame here. But then, like, at the same time, everybody's acting like, oh, let's just put it all on injuries and, the poor us kind of mentality. So going from a season like that to being in this position now where, your quarterback is, like you said, demanding excellence, demanding perfection is sweet, and I would expect the same if I was a Chiefs fan for Mahomes, Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, who else? Hurts with the Eagles, those top quarterbacks, Burrow, Josh Allen, if I was a fan of those teams, I would want my quarterback getting pissed too when things aren't going well, or, when there is a mistake.
Yeah, and the Jets aren't a winning organization. They have to learn how to win. They have to learn how to be competitive week in and week out. And this is the tone. This is the standard. This is what we should all like. That's what you should all learn from. I think it's awesome, dude. And you saw like the one him and Garrett Wilson had a heated exchange like about the route and we're going like, but that's what you want. Like we know what our standard is now. Like we don't reach the standard, it's not good enough. Last year's a lot of accountability issues on and off the field. You're like, what's going on here? Now it's like they're trying to clean it up. I think a lot of lessons learned. And they're applying it. I think it's awesome, dude. So you look at Aaron Rodgers playing well. You go to the running backs, and Breece Hall. We love Breece Hall. I was most curious about Allen and Davis. How are they in pass protection? How are they in just catching the ball out of backfield? And the early reviews, I understand today's the first day of practice on Allen, dude. You gotta love it. Looks smooth, very smart. Pass protection's on point. That's awesome, man.
Well, another thing too, I don't know if you caught Salah's. I think it's Salah's most recent presser. He was talking, or it could have been yesterday's one. We're filming this on Monday. By the way, I actually didn't know if this was live or recorded. I had to pop over to the comments and but no. So Salah was actually raving about Tariq Cohen.
Yep, another one.
Looks like the old player back in Chicago, and if that's the case, just holding Salah to his word here. All of a sudden, the New York Jets have a major weapon at kick return. Well, at running back, but primarily special teams, because dude, he was an all-pro returner.
Yeah.
So not only just help with the punts, but also with this new kickoff rule, which is going to be extremely important. So, bro, you're looking at the running back position. We are absolutely stacked, man. I really have a hard time thinking about teams that have a better overall from top to bottom running back room.
Yeah, I mean, especially Breece Hall leading the way. It's like he's explosive. He's back practicing. They look good. It's just with the rookies, you always wonder how they're going to react to this. Is the game too fast for them? Is the offense too difficult? But they're picking it up quickly, which is great. Again, you'll see more of the joint practices when they're going against somebody else and not their own teammate, but encouraging signs early on. Then you go to wide receiver group. Now, the wide receiver group is interesting because Mike Williams is not back practicing yet. Gibson's banged up. So now a lot of other guys are getting a chance to play. And lo and behold, your favorite player, Allen Lazard, is having a solid camp other than today, has had a solid camp. So are you surprised? Are you encouraged? What do you think about Allen Lazard?
A little bit of both. I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't maybe a little bit surprised because of how the 2024 OTA and minicamp process was or how that went down. Because supposedly there's a lot of negativity there. It just still looked like he was struggling. And over the course of a month, things really clicked. But I think these padded practices are going to be huge for, the offensive players, because I understand that they had a bad day today, or I think he only just had the drop. So one maybe bad play. And granted, I'm not sitting there analyzing every single practice play, but despite him not looking the best today, I still feel as though he's trending upwards. Look, if Allen Lazard can come in and snag 500 receiving yards, 600 receiving yards, that would be a huge boost at the fourth wide receiving position on the step chart.
Yeah, 100%, man. Just be average to above average. He'll be an addition to the team, which is great. Then Gibson being out, other guys are getting a chance. You have Corley, Malik Taylor, a lot of young guys, Jason Brownlee. It's going to be interesting to see who makes an impact, but it's kind of interesting that Corley's starting off slow, which is to be expected. And that's why when he was drafted, I was like, oh, he's going to get 800 yards this year and 8 touchdowns. I'm like, he's got a lot to learn right now. He's probably swimming a little bit, trying to decipher all this, the routes. I know Aaron Rodgers was helping him with the one route. So, I mean, it's interesting to see these young guys step up. Malik Taylor is a guy that Rodgers always mentioned last year for his deep speed and explosiveness. I know he had a couple big plays already this camp. He had a bad drop, but it's that's an interesting player right there.
Yeah, and I think something else to make a note of too, it's, when we're talking about these players that are maybe on the roster bubble or practice squad guys, we can't expect them to look perfect every single day, which is why, I figure we're going to talk about the defense here in a second, but that's why I'm so impressed with a guy on Tack McKinley, because it seems like every single practice he's getting sacks, he's getting in the backfield, he's flashing, beating offensive tackles. There's I really feel as though there's a lot to like. There's a lot of encouragement there, but again, it's rare to see, we're not in a position. I just don't feel as though it's realistic to say, okay, Malik Taylor's going to be perfect every single day. Alan
Yep.
Lazard's going to be perfect every single day. Garrett Wilson, perfect, and so on. So, at some point, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be a drop pass or a bad throw or a missed block or whatever it is, bad penalty. But it is what it is. Like no team is perfect. Not many players are perfect. And I mean, teams definitely don't have, perfect rooms from top to bottom. So, in regards to, maybe Malik Taylor struggling here or there, look, if Rodgers has faith in him going back to last season, then, there is maybe, something there to work with.
Yeah, and I have two other opinions on that. It's just that they're also going against a very good defense, arguably one of the top defenses in the NFL. So when you have DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, Michael, it's not like they're going against, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're getting hard competition day in and day out against one of the best defenses in football. The other thing, it's just I'm interested in that having Tyrod Taylor, I think, makes a big difference too, where Aaron Rodgers, great quarterback. Tyrod Taylor, a very good quarterback, which helps that your play continue to be at a high level. I think last year when you have Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle. Oh, I mean, what are you getting out of them? Where I think Tyrod probably commands a little bit more respect, and you get a better flow in the offense too, which is also going to help these young receivers. Like that's just kind of like the leadership rolling down. What do you think about that? Because I think it's huge, dude. I mean, I think like Tim Boyle is a limited guy. Tyrod Taylor can put the ball where it's supposed to be every time, and and make you a better player. That could pay dividends with these young receivers.
Yeah, dude. I mean, T-Mobile, man, like he's a formidable quarterback in this league. Is he a starting quarterback at this point? Probably not. But when we're talking about top backups, like he is damn sure up there.
Yep.
He's in my opinion one of the best backup quarterback options in the NFL. And you kind of look at his career. TD to INT ratio is crazy. It's like 60 something touchdowns to like 20 something picks.
Yep.
Sorry, laundry's done. I don't know if you picked that up on the mic, but yeah, he takes care of the football, makes good decisions, can tuck it down and run, especially on like third and longs and whatnot. Quarterback draws, provides leadership. He is a great teammate, offensive knowledge, right? And I also think the trickle down effect of him mentoring Jordan Travis as well is going to be huge.
Yep. That's why I think your overall practice on offense, I think, is a higher level. Better players, better talent, better quarterbacks. It trickles down. Now you go to the offensive line. There's some good and there's some bad. The good is that, AVT's back practicing. That's great news. Tyron Smith is dominating. But then you have the bad where Morgan Moses is not back just yet, but he will be back soon. The Tippmann thing today was concerning a little bit where you're like, all right, second-year center, learning Rodgers, learning this, but the snaps have been inconsistent out of the shotgun to the point where today's practice was a mess. Are you concerned at all, or do you say, you know what, Aaron Rodgers is a technician where he's going to be committed to fixing this problem much sooner rather than later? Or do you say, you know what, while he's trying to figure this out, let's go sign Connor McGovern as insurance in case 2 weeks from now this problem doesn't go away?
That's a good, that's a good point, good idea. I think the McGovern thing shouldn't really be necessarily decided on a week or two of practice. I think if the general manager's in a position where like that's the deciding factor between signing a player and not signing a player with no injuries involved, I think that's a little weird. But I think, first off, I think today was kind of a bit of an outlier. I know Saleh said that Tippmann has had some rough snaps, previously, but I think today, first day that pads come on, these offensive players are used to not being hit. So, this also goes for wide receivers and whatnot, running backs, if you're playing offensive football and you're not getting hit for a week, going back to minicamp, you're not getting hit there, voluntary OTs, you're not getting hit there, to all of a sudden now they can, now they can hit you.
Yeah.
I think the mindset goes from, okay, I can, I'm playing a little more loose. Now I have to tighten things up. Now I have to be sure to maybe get down or step out or brace for contact. It might be a little bit different for offensive linemen, especially Tippmann, where we have all these new faces on the D line, Fotu and Kinlaw and whatnot, all these undrafted guys coming in. It might be a little different for him, thinking, okay, maybe he's one step ahead in his mind.
Yeah.
As opposed to, instead of thinking, okay, let me just clear the snap, to Rodgers, it's okay, who am I blocking? How am I going to go about this? I got to get ready for contact. Today's the first day. So I don't want to put too much stock into it at this point. But if it continues on for another week, especially in joint practices with Washington, then I think I would start to really have some concern here. But it's not like Joe Tippmann hasn't played center before. He knows how to snap at a shotgun. He knows how to snap, when the guy's under center. So
Yeah.
whether it's the college level or last season. So I think he's going to be fine ultimately.
I think so too. It could be communication. It could be just the pressure. Like you said, the defense, Quentin Williams sitting in front of you, all learning the cadence, learning the communication, learning all these things on the fly with Aaron Rodgers behind you demands excellence. So, like, I'm with you. I'm like, they'll figure it out. He's committed to getting better. You see it after practice of working. He's a great player. So it's like, all right, you know what? A week from now, 2 weeks from now, if this is still an issue, then you're like, you know what? Let's get Plan B in here to kind of make sure we have that insurance policy because we can't afford, two fumbles a game or whatever else. And you don't want to see Aaron Rodgers get killed either, jumping for balls and taking unnecessary hits. So not a panic button today. We'll revisit this once the preseason comes.
Right.
The last position on offense is a tight end position, which to me is interesting because we all love Conklin, right? Conklin is poised to have a great year. He has great chemistry with Rodgers, phenomenal athlete. Behind him, it's like we're all rooting for Ruckert to take that big step, right? That's kind of be the guy, and he got banged up again. But it's like, to me, it's like there's some pressure on him, man. Because he's almost like in a make or break year at this point, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I was literally just about to say that. See, for me, like tight end's probably like the least interesting position because I feel like we know exactly who we have. We know Conklin as a player. We know what he's going to do in this offense. You would like to think that he's going to perform a little bit better than previous years with Rodgers throwing him the football.
Yep.
And we also know that he's going to be the guy. With Jeremy Ruckert, I think it's just a matter of him getting opportunities, him like actually making an impact in regular season games. Yep. If he can do it, awesome. If he can't, then we'll probably move on or even just, see what Uboa has as that kind of tight end too. Yep. I'm not really expecting a ton of 2 tight end looks out of this offense. I just don't really. I think if anything, we'd probably see a lot more 2 slot wide receivers, 2 receivers lining up at the inside, more so than 2 tight ends. But yeah, for me, it's tight end. I'm just kind of looking at Conklin saying, okay, he just has to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'm the same boat, but I think I want to see more out of Ruckert. Stay healthy through training camp. Compete in preseason, show what you can do, and kind of earn your reps, earn your time. Because if not, like you can say, we can see what we have in Yeboah. Or we can see it on the free agent market too. Like we can see, hey, you know what, we make a move here. Like that's kind of where you evaluate as you go on. Say, is there an area of need? Is there a hole? I'm not saying it's a hole. I like Ruckert a lot, but he's got to prove it now. It's like you're on that spot. So offense is interesting. If you want, we can go to defense where so many superstars over there.
Tyson, let me just cut you off real quick. I'm trying to find a list of the tight ends that are actually still available, like on the free agency market.
There's got to be a couple still.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to find a list, but keep on talking here. I'll try to find it in the meantime.
Yeah, so if we go to defensive side of the ball, you mentioned the guy earlier, but like you look at the Jets have all kinds of pass rushers. Reddick is still not in camp, which to me, I'm not gonna be honest with you, I'm surprised at this point. He's got what $300,000 in fines at this point, or whatever number. It's a crazy number, and according to I guess Connor Hughes today, nothing seems imminent, which to me is just. It's almost like alarming. Like, what are we doing at this point? Because the numbers are adding up. It's like, do you offset that by giving him more guaranteed money to cover that call? Like, to cover the fine. But are you shocked that this isn't done with Reddick already?
I'm pretty damn surprised. But what's confusing about the whole guaranteed thing that you just said is, like, wouldn't the Jets want to give Reddick not as much money? So every day he's missing. Like, I don't know. It's just this whole thing is such a weird dynamic, and hopefully we wake up tomorrow morning and it's done. But we got that report from Josina Anderson, essentially alluding to the fact that Reddick is potentially at a loss for more money, on top of the $50K a day, and Saleh's, like hinting at the fact that the Jets will be fining him.
Yep.
Not. I guess at this point in time, we don't have anything concrete about that, but all we know is every single day that goes by, Reddick loses more and more and more money, which I'm sure he's not happy about. I'm sure the Jets want him or at least the Jets coaching staff wants him in camp because it's, all these lost reps. I mean, at some point, something's got to give. I'm at the point where it's just like with every day that goes by, I'm just looking at the team saying, let's pick up the pace here. Let's get something done. I understand that the Jets have the leverage, but ultimately the Jets traded for the player. We gave up an asset to go handpick this specific player. We could have just drafted somebody in the mid rounds. We could have signed another veteran pass rusher, for a cheap 1-year deal. If we, we're hell bent on either not giving him a long-term deal, or even short-term deal in that, in that matter as well. Or, if the Jets wanted to save money and because look, you can go out and get a solid pass rusher, like a rotational guy, like 1 year, $6 million, 1 year, $7 million. Like you can go out there and afford that. That's not unheard of. But no, it was Hassan Reddick, and you factor in Bryce Huff gone, JFM gone. Now it's like it kind of like that move alone was the replacement, and that replacement is not there. He's unhappy. He wants the new deal. We haven't given him the new deal. Fines are being handed out every single day, which isn't helping anybody.
Nope.
Because it's not like that money's going to the Jets cap. You know what I'm saying?
Nope.
So just a freaking strange situation. I hope it's done soon, because you kind of feel as though the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah, I start worrying about injuries, getting into football shape, all this stuff.
Like,
good.
Yeah, think about like Reddick's motivation level.
Yeah.
If it takes until like the third preseason week to sign, on top of the injury risk and on top of learning the system and the players and the coaches, which I think he will be fine at once he gets into camp. But still, I mean, these practices are valuable. You don't just walk into a regular season with no training camp and just start dominating. Let me ask you this. Do you think there's a chance that he pulls a Le'Veon Bell?
I don't think so. I think he's definitely going to play this year. But I'm in the boat with you though. I'm more worried about if he misses. You're only allowed so many padded practices in general. You know what I mean? So like the more padded practices he misses, then you're like, all right, you're missing these. The preseason game, learning the defense, learning the communication on the field. A lot of things happen there where it's like, I understand he's a veteran guy. He's produced everywhere, but there's still a lot of valuable reps here, man. So it's just, I'm hoping he wants to play this year. I'm sure he's not going to walk away from $12.5 million, but at the same time, like I understand his stance where it's like, I don't have no guaranteed money. I'm telling you what I told you last week, what I would have did. I would have showed up. I would have came to camp. I would have showed up and said, you know what? Hamstring hurts, man. Can't practice today. Sorry, coach. Got a headache today. Can't practice today. I can meet the media. I can do whatever. And you can't find me because I'm in the building. That's what that would have put legitimate pressure on the Jets. Not being around, not talking to the media, not being on the team. It's kind of like, nobody really, they don't see that side. But, and then like with him out, it's a good thing for like Will McDonald, all these young guys to get chances to perform. Now, Saleh's comments today kind of were interesting because Connor Hughes has been on this for a couple of days now where it's like the Jets wanted Will McDonald to put on size so he could handle the run, the pass, but he could use power to overpower a lineman in front of him. You can't always use your spin athleticism. You got to be physically be able to dominate somebody and push them over, And he hasn't done that. He hasn't put on the weight, but he's put on size. And he's had a slow start to camp too, which is interesting. I'm wondering how that plays out because I think they have high expectations for Will McDonald, especially after Huff leaving. I wonder if he's, not really where they want them to be right now.
Yeah, I mean, I still look at McDonald from a year. What's crazy is like I loved Will McDonald in college. I just didn't think he was going to be drafted to the Jets because of the system that they ran at Iowa State. Yeah. Completely different. And because Will McDonald would bounce inside, outside, he bounced all around the Iowa State D line. I figured he was more, I don't know. I felt like there were like a handful of teams that were maybe like a better system fit. And then the Jets come out. I think it was like on draft night. They're like, oh yeah, he was like out of position. Like I don't think he was out of position. Like you watch what he did at Iowa State. He was the best defensive lineman on the defense. He did his thing there. The numbers speak for themselves. The coaches would rave about Will McDonald. He meant a lot to the program. But, so far up to this point, if that's the one thing that's holding, or that's the one thing that the Jets feels holding Will McDonald back, it's not like they don't have the resources to make that happen, in my opinion. Like, if he needs to put on size, they have training plans. They have diet plans. They have all of this stuff at their disposal. They have hundreds and hundreds of case studies, similar players that have been in his position before. tons of contacts, hundreds of contacts that you can help out, get words of advice, meet with former players, and kind of ask how to figure this out. Now, was it a situation where the Jets said, "Hey, we need you to come in by X amount of pounds to training camp," or putting up X amount of pounds on specific lifts or something like that before the start of padded practices? And McDonald says okay, and then shows up and the requirements aren't hit. Maybe it's a bit of a different story. It's kind of like the reverse Becton situation, where with Becton it was drop it down. But for the Jets to pass on so many positions of need in that draft and go with Will McDonald, you would like to think that they would have a plan in place for him.
Yeah, and this is where I kind of think they went out and got Reddick. You get Reddick, you take all the pressure off Will McDonald this year. It's almost like another redshirt year to keep learning, getting better. But then the way Saleh described him today, it was almost like Bryce Huff, where he can be like a situational pass rusher. He's like, well, Steph Curry shoots threes, so why have him go in the post? Let him shoot his threes. Well, McDonald is a pass rusher. He just rushed the pass rusher. Like, I get it. I understand. But a first-round pick where you took him at, you want a kind of like a all-around good defensive end. So
you want a starter.
100%. So like Saleh's comments today was very telling. I was like, all right, this is interesting now, because now it's like, he's got some work to prove. And now, like you said, in the offseason, you had the entire NFL offseason to put on that size they asked, whatever it means, 10 pounds, 15 pounds. And you can guide it by month, every 2 months. Where are you at now? How you could figure it out. So that to me is something to keep an eye on, especially in the dog days of summer and training camp. Like, a lot of these guys lose weight in training camp.
Yeah.
It's so friggin' hot in August, all these practices. They don't gain weight, they lose it. So that's gonna be interesting, something interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like because it's not like Will McDonald looked like Clemens back at Iowa State, gets drafted by the Jets, and they're like, we need you to put on size. It's like, no, he's always looked like this.
Yep.
So, if the I guess maybe philosophy in the Jets' minds was, okay, he needs to put on weight, that's our plan to unlocking him at the NFL level, then that actually has to be executed, in my opinion. Whether that's on the team, not putting him in the best position to be able to do that, or not either being there or giving him unclear advice, or the plan's not working, or whatever it is, or if it's on the player for not following through on these, on the regimen, if you will. So, I mean, I get it, right? You want Will McDonald bigger and stuff like that, but I don't want to sit here and pretend he's like a bench player. Right. But what's interesting, it's like, if Reddick, say there was no Reddick drama, no Reddick issue, he was at training camp, the two starters have been Clemens and Johnson.
Yep.
Johnson's going to lock one of those down, and you would assume Reddick is going to be the other one.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the rotation is concerned, is Will McDonald number 4 now?
That's the question, right? That's what you're wondering about. And that's interesting, because you figure also with Clemens, they made him put on weight, and I thought he was less of a player. I thought he was better when he was lighter. So it's interesting to see how the Jets handle players and what the weight should be for each player. So it's something to keep an eye on. And then the defensive line in general, the biggest story, I think, the biggest surprise of camp has been Takk McKinley.
Yeah.
Takk McKinley's always had the talent, dude. It's just either bad fit, bad luck, whatever it was, didn't work out. And now he's just like, I didn't hear much today about him in pads, but like, he's been a man amongst boys, blowing off the line, exposing everybody, 2 sack days, 3 sack days, which is encouraging, because the more competition, the better. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Dude, I mean, I'm hyped up for him. Like, former first-round pick. One thing that supposedly he was like absolutely horrible at was stopping the run back in his Falcons days, which ultimately led to, him not really working out, and then, him getting an opportunity in Cleveland. It doesn't really, pan out there either. But again, it goes back to Saleh, Ulbrich developing these defensive. I mean, we just got to talk about, Will McDonald, but it kind of. And if you listen to Saleh's press conference, he actually said that Takk McKinley like checks a lot of the boxes that they look for in defensive ends, which is a good sign to me, because it's almost like they have a clear picture, clear idea on what they need / want from a specific positional group, which is really, really important, as opposed to, just looking at numbers, looking at, the highlights of the film or the size, and just saying like, yeah, he's pretty good. I think I can make it work with him. It's like, if this player, whoever it may be, a free agent, a draft pick, is checking these individual traits off, or these statistics off, then we can work with them. Which again, kind of makes you question the whole Will McDonald situation, to begin with, because, I don't care what team you are a fan of. If that team in the first round is drafting a player and he's going to be the fourth option at a position, it's a bit, in question. And then you factor in like Joe Douglas, all of his misses in the draft, all these different guys that are just not even playing on the team anymore. It just makes your mind starts to go down that route. But again, I still really like Will McDonald as a player.
Yeah, and I'm like, McKinley's a good story. Like, I like Tanzel Smart. They're all competing. But the one guy that we were kind of curious about, and we kind of questioned the contract the Jets gave him after Woods left and Jefferson left, was Kinlaw. And you watch Kinlaw's interview today, and you're like, this guy is going to be so easy to root for, because he's like, you know what? I was down and out. I had a lot of bad things going on, but I never gave up. I kept believing myself. He got all choked up and emotional, but you could see how much the game meant to him and how much the opportunity meant to him. And he is in a defense that could let him flourish. Salah obviously loves him, but it's like to see like the emotion and all that he has, the energy invested into his game. Like, he right there, you're like, dude, we're rooting for him. Like, you want to see him just flourish, right?
Yeah, dude. So I actually haven't watched the presser yet. I was gonna do it later tonight.
Gotta watch it, dude. He gets choked up. Like, he literally, you could see he stopped like 3 times. Like, you know what? And he's just like, I've been through a lot, man. I've been through a lot. But he's like, I never gave up. Like, I just didn't. And now I'm here. Like, I enjoy touching the grass. Like, I'm just so happy to be here. And it's like, you could just see it. Like, you know what? This guy is going to give you every ounce of his body to perform, produce. Because he wants a new contract, but he wants to succeed. So you got to check it out, dude. It touched your heart for sure.
For sure, man. Yeah, I think, well, another thing too, man, I don't want to say Kinlaw was like massively overpaid. It's not like the Jets gave him 20 mil. You know what I mean? I mean, what people were saying was like 1 year 5 mil, 1 year 4 mil for Kinlaw. What did he get? 1 year 8?
Yep.
So a couple $1 million. I think at the end of the season, we'll have the debate on whether or not he was overpaid or paid, exactly where he should be, or underpaid potentially. Because I think Kinlaw, much like Tat McKinley, but I don't want to say I have more confidence in Kinlaw, but it was clear that Kinlaw was the handpicked choice of this, regime. We allowed Quentin Jefferson to go. We allow Al Woods to go, and we replaced Quentin Jefferson, who had a great season, with Kinlaw, and we gave him a ton of money, all things considered.
Yeah.
So, factor in Kinlaw having experience playing in the same style of defense, factor in, him just wrecking the Senior Bowl, first round pick, having a lot of potential, his size, all these different things. To me, for me at least, the arrow is trending up.
Yeah, 100%, man. No, it's exciting. Like, you see the story. He put on size, he put on weight too to be better against the run. So, very interesting player. He said it's a 1 year deal, so it's not like you're make or break it. It's not going to break the team going the field, but it's like you root for him. Other than the defensive line, linebackers, you're not really hearing a lot. Quincy Williams, obviously all pro, CJ Mosley, Jamian Sherwood is still doing his thing, flying around, which is good. But you don't really hear about any other backups, though, right? You haven't heard like any really news about any of the linebackers on the team so far.
Yeah, I think that's going to probably come out during preseason, like eye test.
Yeah.
That's really where I feel like the backup linebackers have a chance to shine. Like that second half of these preseason games, can somebody drop back into coverage, confuse a quarterback and snag an interception, or make a play on special teams, or come up and lay out a running back, stuff like that, blow up a screen pass or something, like instant, like identification. Okay, I know exactly where the football is going. Let me just explode, burst, get to point A to point B. That's really where I feel like the, like Surratt last season, like there's moments where the linebackers just have opportunities to make plays, like a scoop and score, fumble return, stuff like that. Blitzing linebacker, like up the middle, like there's so many opportunities. But I feel, in training camp practices, like there's so much more, I guess, storylines that other people I feel like are maybe interested in. So as far as like what we're hearing from like reporters and whatnot, it's not really like the second unit of the linebacking core is probably not being talked about, or that probably wouldn't get the edge over what Aaron Rodgers looks like.
Yeah, everybody wants to talk about sacks and interceptions. That's what they want to focus on. They're not worried about run defense. So you go to secondary, and like, you love the battles between Sauce and Garrett Wilson. That's great. And then if you go to the other side, DJ Reed's always going to challenge receivers. So the secondary you feel comfortable in, but then it's like Echols is a little banged up. So you want to see what young corners are going to step up. You know, the young kid from the Canadian Football League's playing really well. A couple of interceptions early on, which is encouraging. But it's like, for me, joint practices is where you really see where they are, because right now you have a lot of familiarity with what the offense is doing with the players in front of you. When you have somebody completely fresh in front of your face that wants to take your job, like, embarrass you, I think it gets a little bit more different, right? That's kind of where things change a little bit.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I mean, so we got Washington. I think it's Washington, Carolina, and the Giants.
Yep.
And, with Washington's wide receiving core, they're pretty good. With Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin, like, the Jets are going to have a big, I don't want to call it a test, because it's, maybe 2 joint practices in the game, but how many of these guys are actually going to be suiting up for the preseason game? So, in these couple of days, 1 or 2 days of joint practices, I think it's going to be an awesome challenge for, the Jets secondary. Looking at Carolina's wide receiving core, it's not the best. Adam Thielen and Xavier Leggett's an interesting option. The New York Giants obviously drafting Malik Neighbors, but outside of him, they don't really have much of a threat there. But yeah, dude, I think you're spot on with, and I guess you can maybe make that argument for a lot of different positions where you're finally attacking a new team. You're not going up against your guys. You can kind of take the governor off, if you will.
Yeah, 100%. And you get out of your comfort zone a little bit too. It's like now you're being tested in the eyes of both teams now. So now you're going to see what they're doing, what they can't do. How do you adjust if you get beat? Like, I remember when Sauce first came to the Jets against the Falcons, he got torched by, I think it was, who was it, Pickett maybe? I forget who got Kyle Pitts. And it was like, the minute he got beat, dude, he ran the sideline, he put me back in. I want back in. I want him. Like, he was so mad that he got beat that he wanted to learn what he did wrong, and he wanted to be back on the field and fix it. His head didn't sulk. Like, you learn a lot about somebody when you face adversity or you get beat or like things are going wrong, So that's why, like, all these young players, we're all excited about them now. Like, oh, they look great. But I want to see with the pads on against somebody else, preseason, joint practices, and see, do they keep that same productivity?
Yeah, dude. Another thing too, this is kind of like an underrated thing. We don't really know this to be, we don't know that this is going to come true for sure. But in the joint practice settings, coaches from other teams, but specifically the Jets here, they get literally a firsthand look at, practice, like bubble type of players on the opposition's team. So all of a sudden, if you see maybe like one player standing out, or, I guess maybe we can use pass rusher as an example based off of Salah's comments about attack. If he's watching his, Jets are on offense and he's watching the Washington defensive line and he's seeing a guy flash, and, in a couple months he gets cut from Washington, maybe that player is going to have a leg up because it's, the Jets were like, hey, like, we actually thought you looked really good, or you kind of checked our internal boxes on what we look for from, defensive ends. So I think it's kind of a big test for, to prove yourself for not only just your team, but for every other team out there as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's an excellent point. That's very true. And then you look at the safety position. Chuck Clark is back, but again, you're not really hearing a lot about, Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, Ashton Davis. They're kind of quiet because it's just more like, wide receiver versus corner kind of things. Bernard Converse is interesting though, because they moved him from safety to corner. I guess that's kind of their project they're trying to do. It seemed like the early results with him are pretty good.
Yeah, which is, it kind of goes back to what we were saying with the, at the start of the video, with the young guys performing well, like McGregor, Eric Watts, JBC, Stiggers, so it's, dude, it's all super encouraging. I forget what I was going to say. Oh, when it comes to the safety position, why I think, we might not be hearing a lot of these guys' names. Supposedly it's been a lot of short passes.
Yeah.
So if, the ball's leaving Rodgers' hand within like 1-2 seconds, how much of an opportunity does like the deep safety have to make a play on the ball? And especially in these non-contact practices, I don't think these guys are like charging up to the line of scrimmage ready to make a hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. I think the one overall thing that I enjoyed the most is the amount of leadership on the team, on the field, that's not coaching, where you saw after practice Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses working with Olu and Carter Warren. Yeah. You see DJ Reed working with the young guys. You see Garrett, like everybody, they have like leaders, but the leaders are like legit, like elite level players. That's rare to have. Even Breece Hall work with the young guys. You have like some of the best in the game working with the young guys, and that's setting your mold for the future, which is incredible. And Tyron Smith, dude, it's like you see him all the time working with somebody. It's like this guy is like, he's like a Hall of Fame on and off the field at this point.
So have you been to any of the training camp practices
I
yet
have
or
not
no?
gone, man. I watch all the reports and check it out, and you see, like, I watch all like the after practice videos. I get the most biggest kick out of that because you see, like, when you go to practice, when they're done, some guys go right to the locker room or go to the training room. Some guys stand up, they go in the back, and they work on other things. They go to a jugs machine, they go to different things. So you kind of see who's doing what. And Tyron Smith, dude, I talked to my one person that goes all the time. He's like, he's always after practice helping, dude, literally after every practice. But that's impressive because, like, for a Hall of Fame guy on a 1 year deal, he's like, you know what? I'm good, man. Like, I'm at it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying not being a jerk. You could be like that, but you know what? I'll give my best on the field. Practice is over. I'm going to go rest. And
Mhm.
he's fully invested in his team, man.
Yeah, dude, Tyron Smith has such a great reputation of being that great player. So it doesn't really surprise me too much. I mean, it's awesome that we can say that at multiple positions, you know?
Dude, it's incredible. Like, when was the last time, like, and this, like, I got in an argument this weekend. When was the last time the Jets had this much legitimate talent? Not like, it's like, and we're not like fluffing anybody. You look at the offensive line, just assuming that AVT can stay healthy, which is a huge assumption. Tyron Smith is still Pro Bowl level, right? AVT before injuries, he's a very good lineman, man, right? You have a
Mhm.
running back in Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams when he's back, Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. That's a lot of talent, man, for especially for the Jets.
Yeah, dude. I want to say 2010. Like the 2015 team was good, but we had obvious holes. So yeah, I'd say 2010.
So you say that, and then you look at defensively, all these guys like CJ Mosley's teaching you something, very good linebacker. If it's Quinn Williams teaching you something, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, like these are guys that are playing at a very, very high level. If they're setting your standard and setting your requirements in your locker room, how do you beat that? And that's just being like just being honest, as not being a fanboy kind of take. So it's like the team finally has like all the pieces are kind of falling in place. Now it's just like stay healthy, stay united, and keep making progress, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I really like, dude. If all these guys are healthy, I just don't really see many teams like again, I don't want it to come across as like a homery statement, but I mean, man, we're gonna be in every single game if these guys stay healthy.
Yeah,
And
100%.
that's kind of a big the asterisk on the whole thing.
And the
But
thing is, and even like Brian Baldinger saying it. Brian Baldinger, works for the Jets, works with the Jets on certain things, but he's like, imagine this team with this defense playing with a lead. He's like, this defense never played with leads. You have all this talent and being full attack mode, looking for turnovers, looking to beat up the quarterback with a lead. Like that's a dangerous team, man. So it's like
yeah,
you can't help but get excited. You're like, finally, man, we're here. Like, just get through camp. Like when Rodgers went down today, was stepped on his foot. You're like, oh my god, not already. But then you're
yeah,
like, you know what?
yeah,
If he's temporarily banged up, you have Tyrod Taylor. I'm not even worried about it because they have good pieces everywhere.
yeah, dude. Douglas did a pretty good job of solidifying the depth. So I'm
Yeah,
pumped.
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, other than that, I mean, first week of training camp, it's exciting. You're encouraged. The fans, everybody's buying in. Is there any other like bold, like any like not bold takes, but any like takeaways you have, like that you've seen from like the press conferences or the practices?
Um, I mean, I'm just encouraged that there's again so much positivity. Like you can look at so many different positions and walk away feeling good, feeling encouraged. Not many because you know, thinking back to years past, it's kind of been, I'm worrying about the Jets just kind of getting in their own way, like positional changes, moving Becton all around the offensive line, switching guys' positions from guard to center, center to guard, tackle to guard, left tackle to right, all these different swaps. Outside guys playing on the inside, all these like weird situations or injuries or weird comments being made and stuff like that. But really, I feel like the only distraction that the Jets have right now is the Reddick thing.
That's it.
And I guess maybe the Xavier Gibson injury too, but that doesn't really seem serious. So, that's if we're walking away a week from training camp and it's just that, and we already knew about one of them going into training camp, then how could you not be excited?
No, I'm excited, man. I think the most exciting thing for me is the accountability. They're being held accountable by not only Rodgers, but by the coaching staff. And that's a different take than last year. And that was like we watched games last year where they had endless penalties and the guy would stay on the field. Like, how is he still in the game?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
like
That's a
how
good
is there no
point.
repercussions for these mistakes? And now they're setting the tone in training camp. We're not going to tolerate repeated mistakes. We're not going to tolerate pre-snap penalties and dumb mistakes. And that, dude, to me is like finally that's something we could all rally around because it's just inexcusable at this point.
It's almost like Salah's like becoming like more, I don't even know what the right word would be, like hardened or like more calloused at becoming a head coach. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't want to call him like a veteran coach, but it just kind of seems like, he saw the penalties last season. I mean, bro, at the end of the year last year, it was almost like the norm to have like double digit penalties. I'm like, what is this, dude? Like, this sucks, man. We're getting 14 penalties a game. Like, that freaking blows. Like, how are you going to win football games, stay competitive, if you're literally giving the opposition over 100 free yards a game?
Oh, dude,
Like,
there is nothing drives me crazier like that. Pre-snap penalties and like the lack of like discipline and attention drives me out of my mind. And you said it was like 8 to 10 every week. Like you knew it, write it down for the game, 10 penalties. And you're like, this is just terrible. And then you just watch him on a sideline. He's lifeless. Nobody's held accountable. And like this year, the tone's already being set. We're not going to start. Like we have to change the way we do business here. And I give him credit for it. Like again, it's early. It's friggin' what, July 29th, doing this on a Monday. Where will they be in August doing the same thing? Hopefully they play a lot cleaner football. But there's a lot of hidden yards and penalties, man. And that can help you win or lose games. So if you can eliminate them, it helps you. So find every way to improve your team. I give solid credit for it.
yeah, dude, especially if they're coming on like third downs or coming in the fourth quarter or like that drive, right before halftime or something like that, opening drive penalties. Just, I don't know. Like the penalties were weird last season because look, every team gets flagged. You're always going to have like the one random false start, the holding, the encroachment, whatever it may be. Or you probably got to factor in like at least one bad call too, from the refs. But when it's just excessive every week, it's an issue, and it was a major issue last season. So hopefully that aspect of Jets football gets cleared up. And I also think bringing in veterans too is going to help in that department.
Yeah, so I have a question for you. Today is what, July 29th. The next time we do a show, we do them every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Today's different because we're changing it for one day. But will Hassan Reddick be in camp a week from today, a week from tomorrow?
I'm going to say yeah. I think so. And granted, I said yeah last week when I asked you this question, but I mean, how much longer can this go? The longer it goes on, I feel like it just looks worse and worse for the team.
Yeah, no, I think
Reddick's stance has not changed since March.
Nope. Yeah,
it has not changed since March. But I think for a fan that's maybe not a fan of the Jets, they're probably looking at it like, they just traded for a player that wanted the extension, who was going to hold out anyway.
Yeah.
Like, do you think he's just going to be like invigorated to play with this new team on like a zero guaranteed dollar deal, like out of the blue? No, probably not. So yeah, I think it gets done just because something has to, man. Something has to.
Yeah, especially with the amount of money he's losing right now. $50,000 a day. It's another $300,000 you'd be losing, which is crazy. Like at some point you get to $1 million and like he's like, this is,
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't reached the point where, what you were talking about before, where he's just there and he meets with the media and he's in a great mood, but he's just not practicing.
Yeah. Isn't that what Ayuk is doing in 49ers? Didn't he show up and he's not practicing?
So to be honest, I haven't really dove too much into that situation once training camp kind of started for the Jets, because I've just been kind of so enthralled with that. But and I don't know, you kind of, at least for me, it kind of feels as though the Niners aren't going to trade Ayuk.
Yeah.
But
but that makes it interesting though. Like just being in the building makes everybody uncomfortable. It's like, I'm here, but I'm not practicing. Yeah. So then it's like right now he's not really distraction because he's not there. Like, oh, he's not here. We're moving on without him. If he's actually in the building, sitting on a sideline, just wearing like sweatpants, just chilling out, then it's like, man, this is awkward. We got to get this. Then it's a distraction. Then it's a problem. So
yeah, and the player's probably in a better mood too because he's not being fined.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, he's essentially getting fined like a nice car a day.
Yeah,
$50,000, and again, it's not going to back to the team to help out in cap space.
Nope.
So it's not helping the team either. So just kind of like this weird lose-lose situation.
Yeah, it's odds. All right, got your prediction in the books. He's going to be here next week.
What do you think?
It has to, man. If we're talking about this next Tuesday, he's still not here, then it's going to be ugly because then it's going to be legitimate. If he's not here by next week, he's going to hold out the whole training camp. He'll wait till the last week of the season at that point. Because then if you already lost $800,000 or whatever, at that point, you're like, oh, you're committed to holding out to get the money that you want.
So when do joint practices start?
For the first,
you got to imagine like Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday. Take Friday off, game on Saturday.
Yeah, it's something like that. Or Tuesday. We could look it up. I think it's something like that. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday's a walk. Friday's the walkthrough, right?
Yeah, because the
Something like
game's
that.
on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so Friday will be the walkthrough or the travel and the walkthrough. Thursday's probably the off day. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well, I think that game's in Jersey, so it would be Washington coming up. But if there's joint practices there, you know, if
Already
it's
here.
Tuesday, Wednesday, it'll be interesting to see what the Reddick situation is looking like. You know, with the entire Commander team there. You know what I mean? Like they're out there practicing, and then Reddick is just nowhere to be found. Because I'm with you. I think if it gets beyond the first preseason game, it probably is going to take the rest of training camp. Because at that point, it's just like Reddick is obviously willing to just keep on paying money. So
yeah, he gets that. But when we get to like games, then it's like he's legit, fully invested into sitting out until he gets exactly what he wants, and you don't care. Then you really get nervous because like then you wonder what the hell are the Jets doing at that point.
and also too, man, you don't want to run the risk of pissing the player off to where they just not necessarily pack it in, but to where it's like, man, I'm on an expiring deal anyway. This team doesn't want me. Philly didn't want me. I know. And I mean, you asked the question last week, if Hassan Reddick was just a free agent defensive end, teams would be all over him.
Yep.
Or, assuming that the window just opened up, like he would be the pass rusher, probably free agent to target.
Yep.
But because he has this 1 year of team control, he's not really being treated like a premier pass rusher in football. And, obviously he wants that. That's what the production shows. Yeah. But yeah, dude, it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, never a dull moment, man. But there has to be one thing. Can't be just a full perfect training camp. There's got to be one thing where it's one distraction. So hopefully he comes in. That's one less thing to worry about, and we can just enjoy life. Is there anything else? We covered almost a full hour, 52 minutes of training camp talk. Anything that we missed?
I think we're good, man. I mean, we went through every position. We talked about the coaching staff, talked about Reddick, talked a little bit about preseason. I think we're good.
Cool. Well, we'll be back. We filmed this on a Monday. We'll be back next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, 7 o'clock, to talk everything. We got more practice, more on it. It's exciting. This is my favorite time, man. I like all the competitions, all the stories, like the feel-good stories, the undrafted guys, all that stuff. So I'm sure we'll have plenty more news to talk about next time.
Yeah, dude, most definitely. I guess if it's Tuesday night, if we have that joint practice on Tuesday, I'm sure there'll be a ton of updates. The whole practice we can go over during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank everybody for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. And thank you for everybody listening on us on the podcast networks too. We definitely appreciate all the support there. Mr. JetsCentral, have a good vacation. Don't forget me. You know what I mean? Don't.
Dude, I'm only gonna be gone for like four days, so I won't forget you, man.
Cool. We'll talk to all you guys later on. Have a good weekend or week.